Hello, YouTube. This is BUB'S Comics coming at you with the No Faces Comic Chat. Glad you could all make it. We've got several people here, what they call oily. So good to have you so oily. And we will be looking at the chat. Oh, I see a lot of cool people in here. All right. Well, first, let me announce our very special guest. The man needs no introduction, so instead I'm just going to say he's very special. We have with us, as always, Roger Metarog. Say hello.
Greetings, everyone. I'm flabbergasted, and I was surprised and taken aback, but thank you very much, Bub, I suppose.
Well, I'm glad you can make it. You know, not everyone I sent an invitation to made it tonight.
Well, you know. There are always extenuating circumstances, Bub.
Yes, and the king of extenuations, DS, is not going to be with us tonight. Although I always say that he may drop in later. He may even be in the chat, but honestly, I don't expect him here. So, but that's in case he has any hardcore followers. They can, you know, be baited along to thinking he still might be here. And I can tell you that if you're watching this stream tonight, and you've got a friend, and the friend needs some quality entertainment, tell that friend to leave your house and log in under their own account and watch this as well, because it gets viewership up. That's true, isn't it?
Cool.
So there's only two things I think DS ever looks for when he misses a chat. And I think the number one thing that he looks for is that it was fun and enjoyable. You know, and he likes to see if there's a different guest, you know, and kind of think about what he might have said to that guest or stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. And the other thing he looks is to make sure that less people viewed it than the last time he was on. He wants to make sure he likes to think he's the draw to this show, and he might be. Who knows? We got 10 people watching so far, so everybody make a lot of noise and clap twice. We got Unruly Simeon in the house. We got Life with Two YouTubers. We got Comic Books NYC. We got Mac Daddy Austin with the Mac Daddy and all his Austinness. We got JPL Flash. Welcome from across the puddle. No, I don't think they said the puddle. Did they say the puddle, Roger?
It's a big
I
puddle.
believe it's pond is the vernacular, and the vernacular goes.
All right. So JPL Flash has got his vernaculars looking across the pond. He sees everything real clear. 2020 in 2020. That's his motto. Next up, we got Metarog's in here saying hello to everybody. Hey, everybody. We got Area 51 Mike here. I think I'm still standing at like half a point or something that he gave me for his. He does a figure guessing game, if you will, kind of like a game show contest. I think it's on Sundays, maybe
mornings.
Saturday. It's Sunday morning, right?
Yeah.
So he does it Sunday morning, and I caught it once, and I keep trying to catch it again, but I'm going to hold on to my 0.5 score. I'm rocking that. Maybe everybody else will fall out. We got Liking the Covers. We got I Love Disney and Comics. I wonder, is that the same as loving Disney comics? Like, are you just a big Scrooge McDuck fan, or is it just you like Disney and you like comics? But what happens when it's a Disney comic? That's got to really get you going, huh? I would think so. We got Gretzky. What do you think, Roger? Tell me.
Yeah, I think that if you get Steve Disney comics, that's just, you know, that's like triple, you know, blessing for him. You know,
It would have
it's
to
more,
be, right?
It's holistic. Yeah, it's more than the sum of its parts at that point. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm so glad you're here tonight, Roger. We got Mr. Gretzky 9966, always working hard over there in Gretzky Town. We got the Conquistadorks. Hey, I've heard of that guy. And we've got, let's see, the comic collectors in the house. Bigglesworth's here. I always like saying that name, Bigglesworth. Let's see who else. Everybody else. Scrooge McDuck is an OG. Yes, he is.
Oh, yeah.
Unruly Simeon. Boy, me and Unruly had a terrific chat fight. You guys need to check that out. Check out his latest video of rants and ravings. And boy, he and I really went at it. I'm surprised he even showed up tonight. Boy, I thought he might be throwing tomatoes from wherever he's throwing tomatoes. Or actually, he's a Simeon, so he's probably throwing something else.
Bananas, yeah. And you see the title of his video. You don't want to be in, you know, within range of that. Let's just put it that way.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was a very, very good video. A nice,
Excellent.
succinct rant, as they say, because sometimes rant videos tend to be very popular. In fact, if you put the name rant, if you put the word rant in the title of your video, you'll see a significant uptick in views. And I think that he did it the right way. He only had 2 rants. It was very short, but it really, boy, did it cut to the quick, Roger. Right at the very, to the end, I grapple with thee, unruly.
Yes. No, unruly again. When he puts up a video, it's must watch, because he doesn't put something up that's just banal or ordinary. No, it goes for the jugular, and that's what I like to see.
Bigglesworth wants to know, how is it that the theme is the Mylar man and DS is absent? Well, as you know, DS hates Mylar, so I thought it a perfect time to grind a little salt in that little wound. So the only 2 things that damage DS's books at all, because he's very careful with his books, are Mylar and CGC. All right, so we've got Conquistadorks. I want to welcome you here, Javi, of course, and we had Comic Books NYC in the chat panel here as well. And I always say, whenever you two are in the same, virtual space, Roger, what would you call this virtual? And back in our day, even after our day, really, there were chat rooms, right? Remember all that?
Yeah. Oh, certainly do. I remember them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had 128 baud modem on my C64. I was
wow. Wow. For those of you who don't know, a C64 is a slightly modified tablet sent down from Moses.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's just above like Sanskrit, I mean, it was almost and probably slower. You could type something into a chat room, go take a bath, go make your dinner, maybe there'll be a response by the time you got back.
Many people don't know this, but that's kind of how I ended up in Kentucky. That's a story for another time.
Ooh.
Yep. So in any case, we are talking about, are you ready? Who wants to wait first? What's our team name tonight? Anybody?
Our team name? Isn't it the
title?
The Marvelous
Yeah, we just
Mylar
touched
Men?
on it a second ago. Yeah, the Marvelous Mylar Men. Because we're marvelous. We're not just about the Mylars. We're also about the Marvel. Yeah, there you go. And what we're going to be talking about tonight, I think Roger can probably say it best, because I only shoot the top. I don't even remember what the topics are. I don't prepare in any way. I completely lean and rely on the ample and broad mustache of Metarog. So go ahead.
Well, I believe that you wanted us to bring out series that we would like to be revived.
Perfect.
That had tickled our fancy in the past and have sort of faded away with the vagaries of time, and we would prefer it to be back, so that we could enjoy these characters or series types. I also have a physical aspect that I'd like back, but I'll talk about that later.
Nice.
Ooh, I like that. Yes, and of course these are always to be however you want them to be. I'm very, very loose with the topics. It's wherever it takes you. We want to go on that comic journey with you. So as always, since Metarog's our solid anchor of the bunch, I'd like to go ahead and hear what you have to say about a character or a storyline, or in this case, even some physical aspects of comics, I suppose, that you would like to see brought back, Javi.
Definitely. You want me to go first?
I mean, Bub is the master of misdirection.
I pulled that trick on DS and Roger, but I would never make my guest go 100% first. So yes, Roger, go right ahead. Help the young man out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, let's not scare him off yet. Let's wait till he's committed. Well, first of all, I'd like to say hello to Shannon. Solid 4-string bottom end. Everybody sub him up. Trust me, he's working on his comic room. He's also a Kentuckian, like you are, Bub. He doesn't live too far from you. Yeah.
Nice.
And he
well, then he'll understand the phrase "bless his heart."
Yeah, I'm sure. He was part of the Legion of Superheroes stream that we did last weekend on King Compton's channel, and just one of my favorite people here on YouTube. So everybody sub him up, say hi, and welcome to the chat.
It looks like he has a instrument on his icon.
Yeah, he's a musician too. He plays, I think, bass in a band.
Nice, that's awesome.
So you should, maybe you and he could, talk about all that good musical
Well,
stuff.
I tell you, and I don't mean to get us too off track. I want to definitely come back to your answer. But while we're talking about him being another Kentucky guy, I just want to say that I went to a convention Saturday, and it was in Kentucky. And as you guys may or may not recall from the last episode, we showed up. We were talking about traveling. And I said, this is my con case, right? So this is the case that I take to the conventions. And I had said on our last show that if anyone sees me or anyone sees that case, because it's one of a kind, if anyone sees that case, then it's me, and come up and say hi. And my son and I went to this con, and we didn't even get to the convention. We were standing on the street corner of the parking garage. Wow. And a guy walks up, and he's like, I like your videos. I thought that was super cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
The guy's name's Chris. I won't say his last name, but the guy's name was Chris, and I got to see him a couple more times in the convention. We kind of ended up at the same table a few times, and we talked a little bit here and there. And from what I gathered, he doesn't have a channel. He doesn't even have an account, like a YouTube account, from what I can tell. So he's basically just like going in and searching for comic video, or maybe he searches BUB'S Comics, or maybe he remembers No Faces Comic Chat, or maybe he found us through Metarog or DS or whatever. And he just kind of searches and finds us and watches it. So shout out to all the people that are watching who can't even leave a thumbs up or a comment or it be any part of the live chat necessarily. So, I think it's cool that there's people watching out there that they're still a part of the community. Roger is so much better at this sappy stuff, but it's, they're still a part of the community, even though we don't see them. They're still there, and their presence is felt. And I want to thank everyone watching or listening, or however you choose to enjoy, not just my channel and this show, but all the great comic content and all the great creators out there. I want to give a special shout out to everybody who doesn't even have an account and yet still makes an effort to enjoy this content and participate any way that they can. So thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Agreed. Although you probably, should probably say there's no downside to really making an account, at least in it, because at least
I know, but once people use the word old school, he said he was old school, I just back up. I know that
I got you.
Whenever I say I'm old school, what I'm really saying is it may be something I could do, but why am I going to waste the energy to do it? There's other challenges awaiting me, Yeah,
I mean, I'm just saying that because sometimes if you don't sign up, it's a little more difficult to find things in your queue, and you don't get recommendations. So that might be better for this individual, just because there may be more content out there that he can't really, unless he specifically searches for a person, a channel, or a term.
Well, that was one of the things that surprised me about it, because really, this guy's working awful hard to watch us. So I really appreciated that, and I was humbled by that. This guy, he's got to be working hard just to do that. What's Harry Zlot's saying? What are those, kangaroos? Is he poking a kangaroo? That can't be good.
I believe he's from down under. Yes.
Well, I didn't see him. Oh, they're cats.
Okay, they're kangaroos.
Yeah, Javi caught that one. Thanks, Javi. I appreciate you.
Kangaroos,
And to what you were saying, though, it's just like these people who might not have accounts or who are just watching, they're just a part of a community as anybody else, man. It's just like being a fan. Fans are what makes a musician or anything. Those people are really a staple in the community for sure. So definitely a big shout out to them.
Well, I thank you. It was awesome. It was super cool. I really appreciate it. Of course, I had my son with me, so that was I got the cool points are hard to come by.
Right. Yep, I got the same thing from my daughter when, I guess they ran into one of my videos, she and a friend of hers, and they're like, "Hey, that's my dad's video there." And they're like, "Oh, your dad's so cool." I'm like, "You don't know who I am, do you?" I don't do slabs, I don't do moderns, I don't do specs, I don't do value, so usually that all that encompasses uncool, but apparently they still thought so. You're right. You're
the coolest guy in the room, Metarog.
Oh, please,
absolutely. Especially after everybody leaves because he helps clean up. Doesn't he seem like the kind of nice guy that would do that? Like you could leave a plate full of dishes and go to bed. If he was staying with you, he'd probably clean them up.
Yeah, man. I was that guy. At parties, when it was over, I would stay out after and help out, clean up. Because first of all, sometimes you got extra food to take home. Yeah. Secondly, you got brownie points for the next, event. So anyway, let's get into the. Nobody's here to talk about our old fogey habits. All right, so let's get into this here. Couple things. I was thinking about it. I don't want to get too obscure because I can get really obscure.
Too late.
But yeah, really down there. But there's one thing that I really enjoy, and that maybe everybody in the hobby, I know you get some modern, so maybe you can help me out with this. But I'm a big hard sci-fi fan. Don't give me Star Wars or anything like that, right? Give me hard give me Asimov. Give me somebody that has some kind of science behind their fiction. All right, not this Buddhist and magical fantasy stuff. That's the kind of stuff I enjoy. So I think an anthology book, or comic, or similar medium, with those kinds of stories, but with characters that are recurring, right, in those different worlds or aspects of science fiction, I would love to read that again. And now I don't know if anything like that is going on, Javi, or the chat. So you guys let me know. But that's something that the other day I was reading Master of the World of Verne, and I was like, man, this is such good stuff, And I read some. I was reading some of my pulp, and that is such classic. These guys are thinking, with little science really to lean on, and still the stories though are so involved, and they're so dynamic and so creative. I would love to read something like that again.
That sounds good. I like that.
Yeah.
So, I read a lot of those types of anthologies as well, Roger. In my Planet Comics and the old EC books. Now, the EC books, they generally didn't have too much recurring characters other than the Crypt Keeper or the Vault Keeper or stuff like that. But but the Jungle Books of the Golden Age, or I guess some would even call them what's that other term? Not platinum. Atom Age. I guess the Atom Age books that have a lot of the Jungle Books. They had recurring characters. You had Arula and you had Sheena out of the Jumbo comics, and you had you had Mista of the Moon and various other characters from.
She was recurring. She was recurring in there.
Absolutely, yeah, they were recurring characters. They would come up often. If you guys have ever read a Marvel Comics Presents, classic Bronze Age run, then you know what we're talking about. They were very similar to that. It would have a cover or so that had 2 or 3 of the characters on there and kind of hinted at one main story maybe. And then you'd go through and there would be an ongoing story. The difference is that generally they were self-contained. So are you looking for something that stays self-contained in the same book, or are you looking for something that will carry on from book to book with multiple storylines going at once?
Well, sort of a little bit of both. I'd like there to be not okay. I wouldn't want there to be just one little aspect that gets resolved every issue. I'd like there to be some kind of logical progression, and then there would be another obstacle to surmount, or another puzzle to solve, or another issue that has to be encountered. But
yeah, I call those scene changes. So
right.
basically, you want in the first issue they land on a planet, and then in issue 2 they meet somebody, but they resolve that. Then issue 3 but it moves the plot along just
Correct.
a little bit.
A little bit.
They
right.
change scenes.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Exactly,
I like that.
Exactly. But because it both gives you a sense of completion, and yet it teases you. It wants it's pulling you back. It's pulling you to the next step in the story. This is not just in modern comics. Some older comics too, right? They move the plot so slowly just to sort of string it along.
Oh my gosh!
When they can condense it into a much more coherent and interesting story. But if they have some sidelines, yeah, they did.
Can they really?
They did in the
that may be missing in the industry right now, to condense that down to a coherent storyline where you can maybe get it down. I prefer one shots. That's my favorite. I like things to come in and go out, and at the end of the story, I want to vaguely know what's going on. I remember, I think it might have been Shooter that I heard say, Jim Shooter, I think I had heard him say that people complain that, I pick up a book. This is back when he was, of course, editor at Marvel Comics, and people would say, I don't know what I'm going to do. I pick up a book and you guys are already talking about other stuff and I don't know what's going on. And he said, if you pick up any one of our books and you can't get caught up in the first page and you don't know what's going on, then we failed you as editors. Wow. And I don't think that they have that feeling anymore.
Excellent.
If you pick up book, whatever, Harley Quinn number 56, there's a good chance if you didn't read Harley Quinn number 40 and above, you don't know what the heck's going on. They do very little to set the table.
Right. Well, I'm interested to see what Javi thinks about this, because again, I don't want to throw the books all under the bus, because this was happening in the Copper Age as well, and a little bit in the Bronze Age. And I've heard there are some good moving story books out there. So I'm not going to throw them under the bus. But the ones that I read, like the Wonder Woman that I read from the Rebirth, man, that moved molasses in freezing rain. I mean, that thing did not move at all.
And it's still not moving.
So, Javi, what's your opinion?
Okay, so I'm as far as anthology books, are you speaking about stories or a comic book that has more than one story inside of it, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, ideally, I'd like there
almost like an adventure comics type of thing, where
right.
Where they were throwing 3 different stories or 2 or 3 different stories in one issue, and you would get one character. I remember there was a story I read in an adventure comics where a man is being interviewed by a researcher, and the man tells about his tale about being stuck in the Congos and how he has to use the tribe to create this film, and he himself gets turned into a iguana person, and then that's where the story ends, and then it just jumps into another story, and there's no real sort of more.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't mind there to be like every once, like maybe one of those short novelette kind of stories, and then something with maybe a recurring, but it doesn't have to be recurring like forever. It could be 3 or 4 issue story arc, then it would pick up with another character or another situation, something like that. Just something that would continually try to evolve your interest in that particular series. That's all I'm getting at.
I don't think, and I'm not familiar with any modern comic that is doing that now. I think most of the moderns are just, especially the indies, they'll come out with like a mini series and then sort of just end it there, take a little hiatus, and then pick it back up. But as far as an ongoing title that does that, I'm not familiar with a title that does that. I know maybe Marvel will come out with a one-shot every now and then, as Bub was saying, with that one-shot containing different story arcs in it. Yes, I believe it was in Adventure Comics 427.
Yeah, Shannon knows his DC, so trust
me. It's a great story. But
cool.
I mean, the only thing that I can remember, like what comes across the top of my head is like Marvel did a one shot for Crazy. That old school kind of parody series that they came out with back in the day. They did a one shot recently about it, and then they did another one shot for Bizarre Adventures, the magazine sized series.
Yeah, I have that run. Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
And they brought out Bizarre Adventures where there was 3 mini stories in it, and they were actually really, really good. And I picked up the issue, and it was this guy in colonial times, and he was fighting this monster, and then it turns out the monster was a sort of version of a super Skrull, but like nobody really knows about the Skrulls during that time, so they can't name it.
Cool.
Yeah, so they are, I guess, doing it, but not to the extent that we would like to see it.
I'm taking some notes here. I'm gonna look that one up because that seems like
Bizarre Adventures 80th anniversary special.
80th anniversary. Okay, great. I'm writing this down. Okay, I want to look it up because that sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, and actually the crazy one, the crazy one shot that they did was hilarious.
Crazy one shot. Okay, I'll put that one too.
Yeah, Ralph Macchio was in it, and of course the comic legend, not the actor.
All right, thank you.
No.
I have that same trouble every time Roger says that he's such a huge Karate Kid fan. The first thing I picture is Ralph Macchio.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. They weren't real. I don't think they were relaunching Crazy. No, it was just that one.
Just one shot.
Yeah,
that's fine. I like those when they sort of sometimes they do that just to sort of keep the copyright, but still I like it when at least something that I'm familiar with comes down the pike and I pick it up. Like what they had a Master of Kung Fu last year, 126 or something, which was not that good, but I'm just saying at least they're bringing back a character that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, and as far as sci-fi, I mean, I know that horror is making a kind of a big comeback in comics, but I think sci-fi is still kind of, I guess, lingering. Maybe there are some good sci-fi stories. Generation Gone, that's a newer modern one that had to do with like a virus that could give you superpowers, but it was almost like a techno virus. And Paradiso, which was almost like a dystopian story with like this living city. So, you kind of have to do your digging for those good sci-fi stories.
Gotcha.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. Sounds good. That sounds interesting, actually.
And I have to say that I do like the idea of even if it wasn't going to be an anthology, just some 3-issue arcs. That's about as far as I want an arc to go is 3 issues. I don't think I lose my attention span necessarily, but I don't want it to go on for 20 issues. That drives me crazy. I can't even remember that well. Like sometimes a book comes out like once a month, and time I get to issue 4, I'm like, I need to reread the first. I don't remember any of this.
I'm on the same. Yeah. I can barely remember what, like I'll see a movie and then I'll barely remember the details, or like you said, read a book. It's almost like you read it, you process it during that time, and then you put it down, move on to the next thing. You're like, wait, what happened?
Yeah. That's why I also think I did mention that I'd like maybe 3 issues and then go on to another character or situation, just for that reason, because you want to keep it so that if you go more than a year or even less than a year down, memory fades what that first one happened. So I agree.
Well, cool. Well, we're getting a lot of people in the chat making some suggestions, so I know Roger's going to have to reread all this chat tomorrow, as if he didn't have enough things to do. So
that's okay. I don't sleep much, so that's okay. That's no problem.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. So, Javi, what would you like to see, a character or a storyline or just anything more traditional in comics come back?
So I'll probably talk about or knock out some of my characters that I would like to see make some reappearances in comics, or at least have a comic storyline that has a good writer and a good storyline. It doesn't have to be a huge arc. It can be a little mini, but I would love to see these characters have some good stories again. First of all, I'm a big Black Bolt fan. So maybe just to have him back again, but in the vein of that like Bronze Age, when he first came out in the Bronze Age, and you have all the Inhumans back together, and it's not so depressing where Black Bolt is getting a divorce from Medusa. Medusa is going around, you know, and the whole team is breaking up. Their city is being destroyed. They have to move from the moon to something else. You know, just give me a good, solid Inhuman storyline where they can go cosmic again, put him back in the galaxy, kind of away from Earth. Maybe have them fight their own war again in the cosmos, in space. Bring back Gladiator, have them kind of duke it out, or maybe even become a team up or something. But when they were fighting the X-Men guy, I forgot his name, but he was a mutant, and it was during this War of the Kings storyline. That's like one of my favorite Inhumans cosmic storylines. So I would love the Black Inhumans to kind of come back, and it wouldn't have to be so depressing, like I said. Vulcan.
Is it Vulcan? Is that?
Yeah.
Vulcan. Yeah. Southern Comic Geek was saying
Thank
Vulcan.
You, Southern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be interesting to me. You know, bring back Black Bolt, give him his, you know, his power of vibrations back, where he's able to become such a feared hero, but also he himself is such an honorable character. You know, he's willing to do the right thing. I would like to see that.
That sounds cool to me. I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. I think Black Bolt is a great character because, you know, he has sort of the on his shoulders the pressure of being a monarch,
right?
And yet he has to communicate in different ways, because if obviously if he said something, he'd destroy everything around him,
right?
And that kind of dichotomy, you know, of leading without communicating vocally, I thought was a brilliant move by Stan Lee at the time, because it brings all kinds of dynamism, all kinds of different situations that you'd be in that you wouldn't. How he has to be dependent on, you know, Medusa, an interpreter, et cetera, et cetera. So I agree. I think that's a great character and a great idea, Javi.
And the lore behind the Inhumans, the whole Kree Terrigenesis, and how the Kree did it to not just them but to multiple species like that. You know, they did what they could with that. I feel like they don't really need to expand more on that, but maybe almost revisiting it, making it, you know, giving it to a writer that really wants to tackle it and kind of explore that. I would be interested in it.
Did you read the Inhumans series back in the Golden Age? I think it was a short, like 12-issue series. I mean, not
in the Golden Age.
Bronze
yeah, it was about Golden
Bronze
Age.
I'm
like, holy cow, boy, Medusa doesn't even show her age at all.
No, Bronze Age. They had the series that I think it was 1975 through.
I have a couple issues, but I don't have the whole run.
Okay, if you know, if you can get that like in a trade or whatever, because that, you know, the Terrigen Mists, that's kind of where, you know, you really saw they really got deep into, you know, what that meant, how important that is to their legacy and who they were, and again the Kree were brought in as the ones who originated, and at that point they weren't sure what was happening.
Right.
So I thought it was a really interesting series, the way that they formed that kind of tie-in. So, you know, if you can read it, because it was a pretty interesting little series.
Pope Cerebus the First mentions, if I were Black Bolt, I'd have a short-lived talk show.
Yeah. And relationships. Yeah, true.
But that's why Medusa and him worked out so well,
Yeah.
And I love the whole cosmic. This was before, the whole Donny Cates cosmic universe and everything like that with Marvel. I liked it. I really enjoyed it.
Cool.
Well, Roger, would you mind to shout out some of the chats, some of our new members here? We've got 30-something people watching. Can you do the express version?
I will do the express version. We got Scott Neely. He's just found a bunch of comics, about 300 some comics. You got to check out his videos. Man Cave.
His 5 videos.
Yeah. You know Man Cave very well, Bub. The stuff he gave Biggie. Oh my God. You got to see Biggie's video because he freezes for like a minute in shock. I've never seen Biggie shocked like that before. So Man Cave, you are awesome and a half. Unruly, we already talked about him. Chat superstar, and again, when he makes a video, watch it. Pope is in here. How you doing, Pope? Jackson Roy Kirk, one of my favorites. Such a knowledgeable guy. Let's see who else is in here. Bake the Snake. Again, he's got his bake boxes out there, and again,
which are filled with comics. You got to make sure you say that.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, true. No, it's not key lime pies. Although I told him that would be pretty hot myself. But Superior.
Yeah, that's what we all thought they were too, Roger.
Well, I don't think so. He didn't say so. He's a woodworker, so and does cabinets and stuff. So Superior Hero Reviews. You got to go. Have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. Harry Zlatos. Really funny guy. You got to check out his videos. He just has me on the floor with his videos. From Heroes to Icons, hey Jason, how you doing, buddy? Again, he does a weekly show on new comics. Mr. Gretzky, biggest Archie fan around. He just did a video out of his car, I think, with Archies that he got. Really awesome. Fun stuff. Southern Comic Geek, he just is having a contest. Another great member here, newer member in the community. And let's see, Express. Life with YouTuber Sharon, of course, we shouted you out already. Patrick Wall, thank you for your help with the sci-fi stuff. Thank you for, again, a big chat superstars and all the good chats. And of course, Mike, Area 51, the poor man who was frozen to death over there in central Canada, I do believe.
Yes, central West Coast Canada. Mm-hmm.
Core. And Gore Vidal.
It's so warm over there. The polar bears are wearing footies.
If you say so, Bub. Gore Vidal is in here also. I'm not sure if we got to that point. And of course, we did talk about Steve. I love Disney and comics. And the Gray Man, my man from London, is here. And I think that I pretty much caught up with that.
Did you get Bitbiter?
I did not get Bitbiter. Where's
he snuck in there at the end when he saw Man Cave come in. He was really impressed. He commented on my contest winnings from Man Cave Comics, and I still don't know what I always want to say. Man Cave, my man, but it just doesn't come out well for me. It sounds bad. It feels wrong. But we love you, man. It's so hard. And I was like, hey, what a cave. I'm trying. I really, but I do appreciate him.
MCC, I don't know.
Bitbiter had some good comments on that. He was shocked, and he's kind of a local guy to me as well. See him at the cons.
Cool.
So good stuff out there, folks.
Yeah, good stuff. Great community. Loving community, generous community. We all know about that, and we're just really blessed to be in it.
Yep. I've ruined Man Cave Comics' name. He says it's all over.
It's all over.
We're gonna have to rename it. Well, we're still thinking about naming my comic room the Boy Hole. So we're gonna have the Boy Hole, the Man Cave, the Rogers place for gratuitous. What was it?
The gratuitous?
I don't know. It's something like that.
This is not a strip joint over here.
I don't know.
It's the Man Cave of Gratitude.
Oh, right. Gratitude. That's what it was. Yeah. Javi, do you name your room anything? Your little comic spot?
When I used to have when I used to live in my other place, I had a dragon tapestry, and when my friends would come over and we would do the podcast, they would call it the Dragon's Lair.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah.
I love that game. I love that game.
Cool. I like that. You're doing good.
Yeah,
well, it doesn't sound like people are real interested in my in the name for my stuff.
No,
no. I have to keep
back to the drawing board.
Yeah, that's too off color even for you, Bub. I mean, yeah, you got to rethink that one a little bit.
I'll work on it.
Thank you.
Remember, it's not what I say; it's what you hear that counts.
I was hyperventilating there for a second. Excuse me.
we keep paper bags in the boy hole. We got all kinds over here. We take them from every airplane we're on. So let's see. What else, Roger? What else do you think? I tell you something I'd like to see return.
I'd like to hear what you think. Yeah, I'd like to hear your part of it. Yeah.
So these reprints have been coming out. If you've not seen silver-haired Bronze Age Babes' most recent video on some of the reprints, she discusses some of the DC reprints. And I had a very eloquent comment back to her, but I won't go over that in depth. Just go check out hers and look for my comment. So, but anyway, the bottom line was that I had noticed that one of the things that I like better about the DC reprints, or whatever they call now, the facsimile editions, whatever, they're reprints, and the Marvel reprints are that the DC are done on whatchamacallit, newsprint.
Newsprint. Yeah.
If the newsprint was appropriate to that time.
Correct.
So I really like that. I had forgotten in a modern book, I've gotten kind of used to getting my fingers stuck with black ink and stuff. I had forgotten that the newsprint was so much better and that it can be done. Like a lot of people will say, oh, the newsprint was very fuzzy. It wasn't very clear, but they're putting out these reprints. They are very clear. And they're still on newsprint, and I like the feeling of the newsprint. I like the way that it, dare I say, the way it smells, but it's so much more authentic. Like when I'm reading through one of the Marvel facsimile editions, it just feels like another reprint. It doesn't. There's nothing about it that feels like the real thing. If you have the real thing, you're like, this isn't. It's better than reading it digitally, in my opinion, but it's still. Yeah. It's still just not that newsprint. So JPL Flash saying Alterna Comics still does newsprint. And Unruly Simeon is also saying that he misses newsprint and Hero. So I guess, I'm sure this isn't an uncommon thing, but that people liked it. But I just miss it. I think it was so much better. And to me, that was a comic book instead of a magazine. Now, I never really collected magazines very much. Some wizards about it. So I kind of like the idea of it being a comic book. It should have a magazine-ish cover, a glossy cover, and newsprint interior, and I'm down. Plus, as a guy who presses books, I can tell you I'd much rather press newsprint.
Right.
It comes out flat every time. So there you go.
Yeah,
so that's what I'll throw out there.
It's pulp paper. Yeah, it's pulp paper. So yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I obviously I agree. And I've been saying this, probably since we started the chat. That the comic book experience to me ended when newsprint ended in comic books. Now they're another type of medium for me. Because I'm not even talking about the staining on the thumbs or whatever, the fingers or anything like that. It's just that it doesn't, like you said, it's now a magazine. It's not a comic book or a comic, a traditional comic with pulp paper. It was made like that because it was supposed to be, something that was not supposed to last forever. It was just above a newspaper. It was obviously a little better quality than that. But the experience of smelling and feeling the interior of a comic book, and just having to flip the little noise that it makes, when you first got a brand new comic book, that little sharp little crack that it made, I really miss all those aspects. But you're right, the DC facsimiles are actually very well done. I've been really impressed by them because they do harken back to the old days of us old fogies. Getting our newsprint and smelling them and rolling them up in our back pockets, et cetera, et cetera. Not that I do that anymore, but I'm just saying, in the old days, we didn't know better. So yeah, I agree.
Well,
and that was that.
You roll it up and stick it in, Roger. It's okay by us. They're your books, and you do with them what you want.
I've always heard that expression. You go to a comic shop and the comic shop owner was like, yeah, you're supposed to, comics, you're supposed to roll them up, put them in your back pocket, go out to lunch, read it. And, not that I'm against that, of course there are some books that I'll treat like reader books, but there are some books, of course, that I want to preserve and, keep nice, and just looking at them, I feel like they look nice. But I've always heard that expression.
Yeah. I wish I was good enough to have them rolled up. When I was a kid, they literally got thrown on the floor. As soon as I was done reading them, they literally got tossed on the floor. They got walked on, stepped on. They'd end up cover detached and pages scattered around the room. And then it would be fun because the time that it came to clean my room, when I got down to the layer that was comics, then I could try and piece them back together and then reread them. So
wow,
basically what I do with the comics I buy now.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's like deja vu all over again for you, right? I'm still like I watched your Daredevil video again the other day because I just thought it was just so good. And I was like, man, I mean, if I ever have any issue, like if I ever get a good issue that needs, I'm sending it to you, Bub, and charge me whatever you need, because you did such a great job on that. I mean, really.
Well, I've got some new techniques, Roger, that I kind of wish I could crack that open and redo it again.
Wow.
But it wouldn't be the same because it's already got some tape on it. But I've got new types of tape that I use, and I've found a way to get out water stains. It's been real effective lately on newsprint even. So
if you make a video on that, you're going to get a lot of views. I guarantee you there.
I'm scared of that one because it involves liquid solvents.
Yep.
And if someone messes up their book after watching my video, I'd feel terrible.
Yeah.
Rod the Rican got a back coverless Daredevil 1 last.
I know. I thought about sending him a back cover.
I was going to say, maybe you should message him and say, hey, these are the back covers you can get, whatever Strange Tales, whatever it was that you got.
Yeah.
And that'll help him out that way because he was tickled pink. And congratulations, Rod.
Did you guys ever, or are you familiar with the Baxter paper?
Oh,
no,
yes.
What's that?
Yes, that's in the late 80s. They had certain titles, DC did, and I think Marvel had a few that went to a higher quality paper with the flexographic printing process. Legion of Superheroes had it, and several other titles.
Marvel Fanfare, I think, had a couple.
Yeah, Fanfare was one.
So what's different about it?
I'm not 100%, just probably a little bit higher quality, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It instead of like recycled newspaper pulp, it was like recycled ream paper pulp or something. It was just a higher quality if you compared to, and I was going to do a video about this eventually. You compared to because Legion of Superheroes reprinted the Baxter series a year later, back in the 80s. If you compare the two, it's a much sharper image on the Baxter paper than on newsprint, just because it takes the ink. The ink doesn't go out as much. It stays more where it is placed. There's not a streaking or anything like that. So that might be a good middle ground, Javi, if that's what you're getting at.
Well, I was just doing a little bit of on the side research, just trying to see when the change actually occurred. And people are saying about 1990s, 1993. And I guess what the companies decided to do is that they gave the distributors two options. They could buy newsprint or the glossy type of paper. And then everyone just kind of just started buying the higher quality, the glossy. And then from there on out, the newsprint just kind of diminished from there.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that part, Javi, but I know that it was more expensive. So instead of costing, for example, $1, you had to pay $1.50.
Yeah.
but Baxter paper was still newsprint, just a little higher quality newsprint.
Yeah. Well, that sounds cool. I'd be down with that. And that's how I feel that the current reprints I can tell that they're not regular pulp. They've got to be a higher quality newsprint than what used to be. First, the colors they pop so much. The whites are very bright. And it really doesn't have that, you know how newsprint will have like that fuzz to the top. It's like almost 3-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, one of the reasons why it would have more of a muddled picture, because depending on which way the fibers lay, you can have cover overlay, you know? So anyway, sorry guys.
That's okay.
So I think that the newer print stuff definitely looks higher quality than what they were using then. So maybe they could just keep using that.
Some people are even saying, I know some people are saying that even the paper that Marvel uses now is not good quality, even though it's not newsprint. I've heard some complaints about the quality of Marvel books. Not so much DC, mostly Marvel. Yeah, but I guess that's just, I don't believe you guys collect. I know Metarog doesn't really collect modern stuff, but I have heard, Scott Neely now saying in the chat, I hate the modern paper.
You're right.
Do you think that realistically, if comics decided to go back to newsprint or give us the option, whatever it may be, hypothetically, do you think that the cost would stay the same, or do you really think that it would be cheaper?
No, I don't think it would be cheaper. Personally, I think that what do you, all right. I'm in something of a sales business from time to time. And really the same thing that I tell people when people say, oh, this price went up or that price went up. And I say, name me anything where the price went down.
Right.
Has the price gone down for anything? It's just, you can't go to the store with the same budget you had even 5 years ago and get what you got then today. It's just the way it is. Now, do I think that the prices are a little inflated and a little ridiculous? Yes, I think all those things are the case. But I would not say that switching to newsprint would all of a sudden drop the price by $2 an issue. Now, it is possible that it could be available to drop the price at $2 an issue, but I don't think that the publisher would do that.
Right. No, I agree.
Well, now they
That's good. You go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think somebody brought it up in the chat that previously they used to sell ads in comic books,
right?
And that helped defray some of the cost to us. But now they do have ads. I've seen them, but not nearly as many. So
well, one of the things that I'll say about ads, and I've said this before, but it's been a couple of years. So one of the things that I'll say about ads, hey, we got Night Tiger and Jackson Rory Kirk in the house. Thank you guys for joining us. Chaos and Comics, all kinds of great. Mark Knapp, everybody here. Thank you so much for joining us. And so anyway, what I was going to say was that when it comes to the ads in the books, most of your modern, and Javi, you buy a lot of modern books, right? So if you notice, most of those advertisements are geared towards adults.
Yes.
People at a minimum age of 16 and likely beyond that. Now you can say, well, look at the Smiling Guy ad and all kinds of stuff like that, and Learn to Draw ads, and sign up for the Kubert School and all this kind of stuff. I mean, there long time have been ads geared at that demographic, at the late high school, early college age group.
Yeah.
But there were also ads for X-ray specs and sea monkeys and toys and things like. And really, it seems like the comic books have either identified, correctly or incorrectly, I don't know, I don't have the market research in hand, but it seems like they believe that their audience is solely, late adolescent, late teens and people in their 20s and maybe beyond, but no one younger than that.
People who can buy their own comics, pretty much, because I guess it's more rare nowadays for parents to go out to the comic shop with their kids and, oh, let me buy you a So
I tell you something. Anywhere that a parent can take a kid and buy something for less than $1, that's where they take them. I don't think that the kids abandon comics as much as comics price themselves out of the children's market. Right. And in doing so, they forfeited the ad revenue that they were collecting that was geared towards the kids. And so now they're left with in-house ads and car insurance. It's like, the Super Geico on the back of every comic in 2017. It's like, what is going on?
All the Snickers ads and all the DC books where it was the Snickers comics within a comic.
Just wrong.
Man. But no, you bring up a very, very interesting point that I have never thought about, how you mentioned that almost the publishers have cut their audience out in a way, or in a sense, because now they're gearing most of their audience is, like you said, older generation.
Yeah, they price when you, obviously it's logical, right? And when you price yourself to the point where kids' allowances are not going to cover, like I used to get, every week I would go or ask somebody to take me to a 7-Eleven, and with $2 I could get 10 comics.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. Finagle. I had to finagle the tax or whatever. Sometimes they let me slide without the tax if I cried or whatever. That did occur. But that's neither here nor there. But to get 10 comics today, let's say even $3, $4, somewhere in there, we're talking $40 or so. And that's, I don't think too many kids of 8 and 9 years old have $40 lying around every week.
Right.
So, what Bub is saying, it makes perfect sense. It's a vicious circle. Since you priced out the kids, you have to, the advertisers are no marketing. They know that the kids are not going to be affording it. So you got to market toward the adult, which means that you don't write for kids, which means that no kids get in, which means you're cutting yourself off from any future market that you're going to build. So it doesn't look good.
Something you just said there is very key to me, and that's you're not writing for kids anymore. Mm-hmm. And if you're not writing for kids anymore, then that lends itself to more, like, to me, comics and Saturday morning cartoons were very similar when I was a kid. The cartoons and the comics were similar. You had a 30-minute storyline that was really 20 after commercials, right? And they were selling commercials, and the commercials were for kids. So it's very similar. And then the actions and the way that they spoke and the plot lines were all very childish adventure, right? Mm-hmm. And fun. And sometimes they got deeper, and sometimes they got more meaningful. And some of it went over my head. And later in life, I was able to enjoy it more. But the stuff now is like you guys were saying with like Black Bolt. It's like a drama. Like every book has to be labeled as something now. Well, what's this going to be? Well, this one's going to be a rom-com. So we'll throw in, we'll throw in Kitty Pryde and Colossus. And it's going to be a rom-com. Okay, well, we need a more progressive rom-com. Well, that's fine. We'll just make Iceman gay and we'll put him in there. Like, okay, well, who's he going to play with? I don't know. We'll make a snowman that he fights. Okay, sounds good. So then they take one premise and then they move it a little bit further along, and then they just come up with this kind of high concept idea that this is what this book's going to be about. All right, well, what about Captain Marvel? Well, okay, Captain Marvel could have some great adventures, but let's not put Captain Marvel in any great adventures. Let's just have her some throwaway villain in the first 2 pages of the book just to remind you what her day job is. And then we'll have her talking to her cat and eating cereal for 10 pages. It's going to be great. And you're like, what is this? Like when I open a book, it's completely unrecognizable to what it was when I was a kid. And I don't think it's because kids have changed that much. I think it's because they're basically printing storyboard formats for sitcoms and dramas, television serials.
Yes.
And that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah. And just to add to that, companies aren't writing for kids anymore. And another thing that you're seeing is we're not seeing a lot of new heroes. We're still seeing the same heroes we know since the Silver Age, Bronze Age, Silver Age, what have you. Flash, Superman, Batman, Captain Marvel. All these characters have been around forever. So we as kids, we read it when we were kids, and now as adults, we're still reading. So it's almost like the comic book industry is following that same audience, but through the generations. They're targeting the audience that they targeted back in the Silver Age and Bronze Age, and they're bringing that audience to the modern age. There's no real, of course, you're going to get new readers every now and then, but it's all the same characters, it's just like you're saying, it's just a retelling of all these same characters for a new medium.
Yeah. And they're kind of pushing that idea that, hey, if you like the movie and you like the show, you'll like the comic because the comic is feeding off movies and shows. And it's basically just, a production storyboard of what those things are.
Yeah.
And so I think that when kids, if a kid or even a later adolescent, whoever they're targeting, opens up one of these comics, they expect it to look something like a movie and to drag on for 40 or 50 issues. Just like you can't just have a quick in and out scene because, we got Avengers Endgame to support, and that's a, 15-year project. So it's like they want the readers for 15 years. They'll drag the story out for them and keep them moving along with them. It's hard. It's hard. Like people ask me, well, what comic should I get into? Like people who know that I'm into comics, they'll say, hey, I've thought about reading comics. What should I get into? And I honestly don't know what to tell them anymore. Right. I tell them I don't read too many modern comics. I say, go to a comic shop, talk to the owner of the comic shop, and tell them what kind of things you like and have them direct you. That's the best I can do, because I don't know.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I feel for today's, modern reader, not in a sense because, and not in the sense of like the stories per se, because I just put this terrific hobby. I don't know if you've read this series.
No, I didn't read it. I had the Immortals, which was another spin-off.
Right. Yeah. And this is actually not a bad little series. It doesn't do what Bub just said. This is more of an action oriented, they're sort of, in a situation that they didn't create, and they're sort of going along and trying to figure out things as they go along. Right. And it has 4, tertiary characters, right? Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, Plastic Man, and Phantom Girl. Although this is another iteration of Phantom Girl I'm not quite familiar with, but regardless. So, something like this, I think Tim, the comic collector, is the one who started, touting this. And I got this from Jay Hood. Something like this, I think, could work because it is a throwback to those more action-oriented, heroes that got into an untenable situation and are trying to work their ways out of it. It's not a drama as much as it is a thriller, So something like that could work. Again, but is there an audience for this? This seems to me like this kind of audience is not one that would like a series that is very middle-aged or even young adult oriented. It seems like a little too whimsical and kind of quirky for it to work for the mainstream. But to me, this is what the old comics used to do. They would just entrap you by wanting to know what the next issue happened in the next issue. Sorry.
Well, that was part of the things. Like Unruly Simeon a minute ago was saying, there's plenty of good stuff out there. I am paraphrasing.
Right.
There's plenty of good stuff out there being published, and I agree with that.
There is.
And there's a couple of titles that I read and that I follow as well that's new. But really, I mean, am I going to go to a 10-year-old kid who tells me that they want to get into comics and what should they read and tell them, well, I think Elvira, Mistress of the Dark is great. The first 4 issues with the cleavage alone on the first 4 issues is phenomenal. It's like, I can't do that. So what I'm into in my advanced age and what the kid is into, I don't know what to point at for the kid. And then sometimes things get a little bit, I don't know, like I don't know a term for it, but a little bit too Duplo instead of Lego. Does that make sense? if Mike Area 51's here, he might be able to back me up. So like Duplo is like the kids' version of Legos, right? So it seems like the baby version. So it seems like books right now, the modern books, which I don't obviously subscribe to those, but the specific ones I'm talking about are either completely adult and basically for mature audiences, or they're ridiculous drivel about mundane lives of superheroes, right? Mm-hmm. Where the only real villain is boredom and the paparazzi. And then it drops all the way back to like what a 4 or 5-year-old would read. In extremely overly cartoonish and bright colors, extremely soft edges, no sharp edges in these books, all tables are round kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it seems like there's a big jump and there's a gap there between, say, 6 years old and like 14 years old. There's like a gap there where I don't know what to tell the kids to go read because I don't really see too much out there for them. So that's kind of where I'm at. Scott's saying he read Elvira as a kid, and all I have to say about that is that explains a lot, Scott.
I grew here in Manchester Fourth.
I grew there in Chester, 4th grade. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
I know what you're talking about.
You guys are this, at least it took a while for this to degrade. Usually, Javi, in the first hour, we're already down in the doldrums, down in the dumps. We're the gutter is like a high water mark sometimes here.
We're doing good.
You classed up this joint to the nth degree. Right?
Well, you may have thought so, but as you know, we're close to the 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock hour, depending on what time zone you're on, and we have a special guest. And remember, what is a special guest class? According to COPA guidelines, this is not actually a class, and everyone here must be at least 18 years or older and have plenty of hair in their chest, as our good buddy Scott reminded us. But other than that class, what does it mean when we have a special guest? A special guest is someone who normally shows their face on their channel, but is not showing their face on our channel. Now, we had Geek Aficionado on the other night. He got a pass because he wasn't a special guest. He's just a guest because he doesn't show his face on his channel. And he didn't. And so he got a pass. But as you all know, Javi does not get a pass. So we need to see what he looks like on pause. Roger, you want to explain what this is?
Well, pause is a drug that's out there, and you
guys got me. Yes,
and it happens on YouTube. Because you guys are on live streams. You guys are on your edited videos, and every once in a while, things happen, and you need a little help, or you have a situation, and the drug pause comes in, and it creates a sort of a different aura about you than normal. So I think Bub is probably going to show you on pause.
Let's see it.
All right, here we go.
Even did the...
Wow,
you're keeping it trendy, man. I like it.
Now this is interesting because this is like all social media platform hobby.
I like how the first one is LinkedIn and I'm clean shaven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a progression, you know. It's like it's a progression, yeah, definitely. But notice you have the headphones, you have the same kind of, you know, somewhat stoic look about you. Very consistent.
If there's one thing trolling through Javi's videos I could find, it was stoic looks. There's plenty of those. In fact, the one that he's got Tinder where he's got that one turned eye, like, hey, that's about the most, other than a straight up smile, which he does smile in his videos, but I was skipping those. Other than a straight on smile, that's about the only two modes he had. Was stoic smile, and then I found this one glaring eye. I said, "Oh, that's the one."
Yeah.
How long did it take you to find these pictures?
Oh, not long. I'm a pro by now.
Good. Shout out to Unruly.
Yeah, you can't escape pause. Essentially, once it's in your system, it's going to get you. And here it is. You know, and this is kind of a quadruple. How do you call it? I guess, you know, quadruple personality.
I love it. It's great. You're keeping up with the times. I like it.
Oh yeah, that's Bub. That's Bub. You know, he's I told you he's forward thinking, right? I mean,
yeah, there you go. I'm also forward falling and stumbling. I rarely fall backwards.
Well, you know,
oh, good deal. Well, we appreciate you, Javi, for being a good sport and joining us. Everybody give him a round of applause. Hey!
I am very, 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 very happy and appreciative to be here. Thank you, man.
Oh, we're glad to have you. I really like to have our special guests, especially when DS is here. So we're sorry DS couldn't make it. Yeah. He'll be fussing about topics that he wanted to talk about, and he always says, "Oh, I had a great thing to add," but like he'll watch it on the replay and think that he can talk back to the screen, and you know, it's like, why are these people talking over me? You know.
Yeah. I bet you he's trying to hit like pause, you know, like on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I want to interject here, you know.
Yes, and you know, he if you guys watch the show, you know, or maybe you don't, maybe I just pick up on things because I'm in the director's seat or whatever. But when you listen to DS, you'll notice you can't derail his train of thought. So he can be saying something, and if he even remotely gets interrupted in any way, and I'll go to like Roger, or I'll say something silly or poignant, whichever I choose at the moment. But I'll say something, and maybe a guest will say something. The conversation can change twice more. And then as soon as DS, oh yeah, so what I meant was, go right back. Yeah. You can't get them off track.
Yeah, yeah. He most, you know how you can have like a go, you know, when you're watching, you get a phone call, you pause it, and then after the phone call, it goes right back. Well, that's the way his mind works. He can pause his mind, and whatever other subjects are coming through, it just flows through like, you know, like a river through a dam. You know, just whoop, whoop, you know, it's controlled. It's controlled, but it's going through. And then once that's off, whatever it is, he'll just start right back at the next point where he left off. It's an amazing talent. It really is. I'm super impressed. Yeah, it is.
It really is. Well, cool, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thanks to everybody for joining us tonight. And thanks for having us on the old screen there. We really appreciate everybody being here and chatting with us. We'll have DS back next week unless he quits, which, you know, he threatens that every week, but he always asks for the invite. So we appreciate you guys for joining us. Javi, especially, thank you for coming. Oh, I was going to say about Comic Book NYC that whenever the two of you are in the chat together, I always try and say it's the Avi connection. So we have Kavi and Javi in the same room. So the Avis are strong tonight. So I say stuff like that, and I'm always teasing him. And he's like, you know, there's just two of us. There's just Javi and Kavi. There's no more Avis. I'm like, yeah, there's more of you guys hiding out there.
Out in the ether.
Yeah, absolutely. They're there. You can't touch them, but they're there.
I'm sure there's a Mavi or a Navi or somebody or Ravi or somebody out there.
Now, there's got to be a Ravi.
There's got to be a
fact,
Ravi.
Sometimes I think highly a comic bro, old Raul, may have gone by Ravi back in the day. He just had to change it because, he left all those tags underneath bridges, and he didn't want to get, recognized.
No, I'm not Ravi. No. That's another guy that lives in.
Totally
he lives in northern Hialeah.
Ravi, bro. He's like, nope, that's not me.
Plausible deniability, Bub. Remember those terms. Plausible deniability.
That's what we all need. And you got Slavy from Czechoslovakia.
There you go. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Ricky Tiki Tavi. Oh, I like that.
Oh man, all the Avies are coming out of the woodwork here.
There you go. The Avi connection is strong.
There you go.
It's strong, man. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining us. What do you have going on your channel, Hobby?
Tomorrow I will be on Inquiring Minds with Hialeah Comic Bro. That's going to be on his channel. Wednesday I'll be on the 90 MF Comics. Oh, I completely mixed that up. Tomorrow I'll be on the 90 MF Comics channel. Wednesday I'll be on Inquiring Minds with Hialeah Comic Bro, and then Thursday I'll be doing a live stream on my channel, the Conquistadorks channel. So I'll be having a chock full live stream week ahead of me, and then every Sunday check out Silver Age Sunday, 12 p.m. EST, also on the Conquistadorks channel. And every Monday, don't forget, 7 p.m. EST, No Faces chat. That's where you got to be.
Cool.
Ooh, I appreciate that. I was wondering, you're so busy. So, like in the morning when you get up and pour your bowl of Captain Crunch or whatever you youngsters do these days.
Okay.
Do you have like a personal assistant that hands you a schedule and tells you where you're supposed to be and when? Because that's a heck of a lineup you got going on there.
My phone and my sticky notes.
Oh, nice. Oh, you're after Roger's heart with those sticky notes. He loves them.
I do something similar. It's like, people have social calendars. Now you have to have social media calendars.
Right.
Because, like tomorrow I'm supposed to be something with Biggie because he sent me an AOK, and then sometimes I have graders notes on Thursday. On Saturday, I'm going to be on with Tony Fett. I'm going to be set up against Dan Piercy to see who got the better comics from New Cadia. So, I feel you, Hobby. It's like, it's great though, because, you're getting more exposure to the community, more love. So I love your Silver Age Sundays. Unfortunately, when I get out of church late, I don't catch it, but if I can, I'm always there because I love, see Steve and Stay Puff and the guys. Raul.
It's a great panel for sure.
Yeah,
it is. It really, I try to catch it as often as I can. It's not at a good time for me either, but I do enjoy it when I can get it. I get it. So
we used to have it at 1 o'clock, but then the whole football season started, and I think it's still continuing. So you know how these guys love their football.
Yeah. You can never find a time that will be good for everybody. There's just no way. Just do the best you can.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, Roger, I would ask what you got going on in your channel, but I think you already ran it down for us.
Yep, pretty much.
All right, everybody, say goodbye. Say goodbye there, Roger.
All right, everybody. See you next week on the No Faces chat with DS Comics, returning in triumphal ways. Be blessed. Be blessed and be back.
I think he'll be riding a salty chariot right back into our hearts. Javi, you don't have a distinctive sign off, do you?
I do not, but just thank you guys for hanging out, everybody in the chat, and of course, BUB'S and Metarog. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
No problem. Very glad to have you. And I'll just remind everybody to read a comic. Well, I gotta better grab something. Read a comic. And we'll catch you next week on BUB'S Comics. And don't apologize for the glare. Bye-bye. Woo!